Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry that there's some feedback. See if we can't fix that. My name is Ann McDonald, and I'm so excited you guys are here today to hear us talk about telling your story. I'm the advocacy and affiliate specialist for the Brain Injury Association of America. And with me today are a couple of friends and my boss. So I'm going to start with my boss first. And Rick, you can introduce yourself briefly.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending upon where you are. And make no mistake, I do whatever Ann says needs to be done. But we have a big week planned for you next week. It's going to be very exciting, and I'm also excited that today we have the chance just to begin to give you some extra time to think about how you want to tell your story to members of Congress next year and to begin working through that. So I want to express my thanks to the members of the Survivors Council and working with Ann and executing this webinar today. So delighted to be with you.
Kaz?
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Kaz Marie. I am a member of BIAA's Survivor Advisory Council. I am also a speaker, disability advocate, writer, artist, and content creator. And additionally, I have a support group for brain injury survivors called Resilient Roots. And I'll be getting in a little bit more into my story later in the webinar, but the gist of it is that I was struck by a car traveling 48 miles per hour while crossing the street in downtown Phoenix in 2017, and that has sustained my brain injury. And so I'm so excited to be here on this webinar. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for being here.
And Darcy?
I'm Darcy Keith. I am on Brain Injury Association America's Advisory Council also for survivors. My injury occurred 33 years ago when I was in a car crash. Received my brain injuries from that. I am a professional speaker, advocate. I'm on an advisory committee for Ohio State University Department of Physical Medicine Rehabilitation. I am a business analyst for Liberty Mutual. That's my full-time paying job. And author. I've authored some books, and I'm just excited to be here and excited to help share your story.
I'm glad you guys are here. So a little later on, we'll be going into breakout rooms. So for now, I need you to turn off your camera and turn off your mic and just listen. When we go into breakout rooms, you can turn everything back on. So we're here today to make you a little bit more comfortable tomorrow. For those of you who are coming to DC, I want to lay out a little bit about what to expect so you're not so worried about what's coming at you. If you're coming to DC on Tuesday, there's going to be a training on how things are going to work on Wednesday. And you're going to get lots of information, and we'll explain a number of things to you. But for now, I want to just talk generally about what's going to make a really good story. Because you're here because you're all passionate advocates with a cause of support. And a lot of you are here because you are storytellers with something to tell our elected officials in the U.S. House of Representatives and Congress and the U.S. Senate. So through this training, we're going to help you get there. Your story is the most powerful tool you have. And so we want to talk a little bit right now about how to make that tool the most effective instrument we can develop. So we're going to talk about 3 components of crafting your story to tell legislators tomorrow. Not tomorrow. I'm ready to start. Can you tell? Next week. Whether it's in a letter or in person in Washington, D.C., you want your story to have impact. It needs to have meaning and resonate with others. You need to tell the person something they may not know about brain injury and provide them some background information. Now, there's no time to tell them your whole story in these meetings. You'll be having others in a group, and they'll be from your state. Everybody needs a chance to talk. So you have to decide what information you're going to provide. And you can do that in your smaller groups. If you are writing a letter, make it short, because the longer your speech, whether that's on paper or in person, the harder it is to maintain interest. So you want to tell them something about maybe how short the rehab stays are, or how few outpatient visits you get. You might want to tell them about how hard it is to find funding for the services that you need, or how the chronic conditions that you have are associated with brain injury. Think about the most impactful part of your story. And then we want you to focus, okay? You need to know who you're talking to and what you're asking for and why they should care. You need to stay on message and choose a part of your story that relates to the issues we're there to discuss. Our issue is complex, as you all know, but you can only cover so much in one 15-minute meeting. Part of what we're doing is trying to hook them into wanting to know more about brain injury and becoming involved with all of you. Please don't stray from the legislative asks, which are the focus of the meeting. And you're going to get a lot of detail about what those asks are. For those of you who are writing letters, all the information is available on our website. For those of you who are coming to DC, you're going to get a lot of training on what those legislative asks are. If you can, find out what committees your senators and Congress people are on, and if there's any link to brain injury, make it. Take any opportunity to link your story to the things that we're asking for. Remember, you might not, I want to stress that you guys might not be the ones making the ask. If that relieves you, we're going to have group leaders in DC, and they'll be trained to make the ask. But your story is what educates them. So when you are meeting with your elected officials or their aides, tell your story in such a way that supporting what you're asking for seems like the only reasonable thing to do. So what is it that makes a perfect pitch? It needs to be very short, 2 minutes max. And I know you guys are thinking, I can't do that in 2 minutes, but you can. Short, sweet, to the point. Tell them what it is that they need to know. You need to introduce yourself, your name and your state. You need to provide a very quick summary of your expertise and your own lived experience. And that's going to help introduce the topic and talk about the change that is needed. And will lead into our ask, which is the call to action. So when you start, you might want to, somebody needs to mute their mic, please. Thank you. So at the start, you want to set the tone of your pitch and highlight your story so that it grabs the audience's attention. Practice, practice, practice. And it's not a bad idea to time it. You'll want the middle of your story to center around 1 or 2 points, the things that have resonated with you that you've heard or have read. Just pick 1 or 2 because all of it's too much. And focusing on 1 and 2 is going to help you perfect your pitch. And you want a strong closing statement that includes what you're asking for and thanking them for their time. Now, we're here to talk about a little bit on why we share, why we're doing this. So part of this is so that we can educate others about the brain injury community. We want to change public and policy opinions. We want to dispel some of the stereotypes that people might have about brain injury and put a human face to the issue and motivate others and cause change. The reason that I get out and do it, but I'm so passionate about brain injury, is because of the caregivers. So that's why I'm here. I love all of you, but caregivers are a special breed of person. And that's why I share my story, so they get the support and services that help them. Kaz, do you want to talk about why you share?
Sure. So when I sustained my brain injury, I honestly felt totally lost. I didn't know where to look for resources, where to look for support. I didn't really have any background to understand the things that I was going to be experiencing as a brain injury survivor, the physical effects, the emotional effects, managing medical appointments, all those kinds of things. And so it really catalyzed me to want to be involved in advocacy and awareness so that no other survivors would experience the same sort of things that I did, that suffering and that just feeling completely alone. And the other aspect is not just to emphasize the inclusion and the awareness for the general public, but also to allow people to understand that brain injury survivors are also still very valuable. We have creativity and resilience and are still able to contribute to society and our families and the community. And so that's the other reason why I share. I want to bring that awareness to the general public about what brain injury survivors experience, as well as make sure that no survivor is alone without resources to support them through their journey.
Darcy, you want to talk about why you share?
Sure. In addition to everything that Kaz shared, I also want to help others live their best lives. So if that is prevention, for example, I have provide compelling testimony in the passage of 2 Indiana state laws, which is where I'm from. And that testimony was to help future prevention for brain injuries. Or if there's one was for a brain injury research fund, and that's to help others, help those of us who've experienced brain injury live better lives. So there's advocacy both on our ask side, anything for future, because we want to all live our best lives. So advocacy will help mold and help refine legislators' thoughts about it, and pay more attention to our asks, so that way funding is there, so we can do that.
There are lots of reasons that people share. Now, we're going to talk a little bit, just a little bit, about what we need to sort of frame the legislative asks. And then I'm going to ask Kaz and Darcy to tell a little bit about their storytelling experience. We're going to go back to a previous slide so you can see again the things that make a perfect pitch, and then you'll have an opportunity to practice that on your own. So if you've been coming to Awareness Day for a while, or you've been working on advocacy for those with brain injuries, you'll know that the main things that we are asking for haven't changed in a very long time. We're going to DC to ask the federal government to identify and address some of the gaps and create some of the opportunities for brain injury survivors so that they can get programs and services that facilitate their recovery. Of course, we're going to need funding to support existing services and build the services we don't have yet. We know, for example, that housing is one of those issues that everybody needs to tackle. We also want funding to facilitate research and grow our knowledge. And at the end of the day, we need the federal government to prioritize the brain injury community and their needs. So it's funding and research and priorities. Oh my, those are the three things: research, funding, identify and address the gaps, and tell your story. So I know that you guys are still wondering how it is that you tell your story in just a couple of minutes. And so that's what Darcy and Kaz are going to help you understand. They'll tell you a little bit about how they decided what the important points were and how they crafted an effective message that had focus and made an impact. Kaz, you want to share?
Okay, sure. This is my first time going to the conference. I'm really excited about being able to share and advocate in this way. And so in crafting my story, I felt that it was really important to make sure that I tried to hit on some points that I felt would resonate specifically with my representatives. And so that was a key point in crafting my story. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not a woman of many words in the first place, so it wasn't terribly difficult to kind of keep it down to a minimum. But again, just to emphasize those key points that are part of your story, that are the most important parts that you know are going to kind of resonate with your representatives, and really get them on board with understanding why they should be supporting these initiatives that we are bringing forth. So it was a really exciting process to go through kind of my journey again, to pick out those important parts that I knew were going to resonate with the representatives, resonate with the general public, to try to make sure that the message comes across in an effective way that is going to get done what we need to get done there. So that was kind of my process in going through crafting my story.
Can you talk a little bit about how you figured out for yourself the most important points?
Oh, sure. So I think the points, it depends on what you're most comfortable sharing, but I think honestly, kind of those pain points, to be perfectly honest, those things that were kind of the most difficult, that affected me the most through my process, the things that I saw that were lacking in my recovery, lacking in my support, those were the things that I kind of focused on in crafting my story in order to be able to pull out those most important aspects.
Yeah, because you felt passionate about those things. So it was easy to create impact.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Darcy, what have you got to tell us?
So what I am doing for my story this time is exactly what you talked about, Anne. It's aligning it with the asks. So when I have met with legislators in the past, this is my third year, one thing I do is I grab their attention. And how I do that is because you can't tell that I've had a brain injury. I mean, I don't have any signs. I walk okay. I seem to talk okay, but you can't really tell. At least that's like my invisible injury. So I immediately start out and I look them right in the eye and I say, looking at me, you cannot tell I've suffered 2 traumatic brain injuries. And that kind of, wakes them up, or that shows them, hey, we can look like anybody else, but we have issues and symptoms and things that linger with us that they may not understand, they may not recognize, because it's invisible. They see what's on the outside, but they don't see what's on the inside. So from that, with the ask portion, the ask I'm focusing on this year is the chronic condition, because I am 33 years post injury or post accident. I have had situations or symptoms come on during the year or over the years, such as vertigo, such as sleep disturbances, things that require additional therapies. So with the ask of it being a chronic condition, I can explain, hey, none of these things happened when my injury occurred, but they came on over time. And therefore, over time, it is a chronic condition and it needs to be addressed so that we can have rehabilitation service to address those symptoms or the effects of brain injury that come on later and not necessarily right at that moment of injury. So those are kind of some of the things that I am focusing on. I'm grabbing their attention and I'm aligning my story, which my story was I was injured in a car crash. I lost everything mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, because I was a 20-year-old college senior. And I talk about that. I find out if they have any connection to brain injury, or maybe if they're a parent, then I can talk about that from a kid standpoint. But again, it has to be really short, 2 minutes. So I had to grab their attention quickly and then go into a little bit about my story and then my ask from that.
Thank you, Darcy. Kaz said something that reminded me that I had inadvertently skipped over a slide earlier. And that slide was the third component of telling your story, and that is self-care. As Darcy and Kaz will tell you, telling your own story takes a lot out of somebody. It requires a lot of courage. And, it can be hard to share your truth and hear the lived realities of others. It's a emotional day in many ways. So you need to take care of yourself. Don't overshare, and don't share anything that you're not completely comfortable talking about in front of a group, because you will be with a group of people. So you can set your own boundaries and figure out when you might need to take a break. What's the best voice that you can use. It's always the voice of experience. And so as you listen over the course of the next couple of days, or write your own letter and look at the materials that we have available to you, again, the things that make a perfect pitch after you introduce yourself provides a very quick summary of your connection to brain injury. It introduces the issue or the topic and talks a little bit about the change that's needed. Now, Darcy said the same sort of thing, that you align your experience to the asks when you can. And we'll go over the asks again because you might want to hear that reminder. But remember, it needs to be very short. It needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning, you set the tone of the pitch and figure out ways to highlight your story. The second part of the pitch is organizing the main message around just a couple of points. So just listen to your heart or to your head, and figure out what those couple of main points are and how they impact you or somebody you love, and how they are related to the asks. When you go as a group, it may be that your group has a process that develops and that there's one person making the big ask at the end. That's likely what will happen. But you have an opportunity in each of your stories to make a little ask, to tell your story, to find your impact. So remember, essentially what we're looking for is for the federal government to identify and address some of the gaps in services and help create some opportunities for services that we know we need. We need those services to be funded at an appropriate level, and we need that services, that money to include funds for research so that we can grow our knowledge and create better outcomes for people with brain injuries. And of course, we need the federal government to prioritize this community and our needs. So I'm going to stop right there. We're going to open it up for some questions. And then we'll be breaking into two separate groups where you guys can spend a little bit of time, like you're going to be one of the groups on Capitol Hill. Decide maybe the point that resonates with everybody and move on from there. So are there any specific questions that we can answer for you before we go into some of the breakout rooms?
What if I'm not going to DC? Do I still want to be in this?
Yeah, you could. You don't necessarily need to stay in the breakout room, but you may learn something that would help. If you haven't had a chance yet, go on the BIAA website and you can find copies of all the legislative asks. There's even a palm card, which really summarizes the asks and maybe a great place for you to start crafting your story from. And then you can write your letter and get it sent in. We will make sure that people know that letters are coming from constituents.
Okay, yeah, because the Florida Brain Injury Association of Florida got totally shut down, so there's nothing down here.
Well, there is a group who's trying to start a brain injury advocacy organization in Florida. And
yeah, my mom's in charge of that. It's Brain Injury Florida.
Yeah. Good. You know about it. All right. There is a question about, will we be sharing a copy of the deck with participants? I honestly don't know. I don't know. I guess we could post that on our website somewhere. So let me look into that.
Where do I go to look for next week information? I live outside of DC, not too far, but I am new to this group and new to the association, and pretty new with my brain injury.
Okay.
so I'm still getting used to everything. So I'm aware of Brain Injury Month being next month, but wasn't fully aware of that, and you know would would need to arrange things, how to
Mhm.
get down there and that kind of thing.
Well, Dennis, on the BIAA website, there is a tab that says Get Involved.
Okay.
And you can click on that and you will find your way to our advocacy page. And on that page are sheets that give you background and content for the legislative asks.
Okay.
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 Yes,
Thank you.
yes, good afternoon. I'm a brain injury survivor from 2015, and I'm always writing to the commissioner, Don Bacon, the commissioner here from Florida, Mario Diaz-Balart, and I have received a lot of feedback from them because they do write back and they are concerned with the movement. And then the Brain Injury Association of I can't get to Capitol Hill. I can't ride a plane because of my I have a 5-inch head scar, and then the pressure causes too much headaches. So the only way to go to Capitol Hill is for me writing to commissioners and writing my stories and sharing my story, and Commissioner Diaz, but Ballard as well. Yes, thank you for.
Well, I think that's a great example of how your story matters. You can make an impact on another. I've seen it happen in meetings with legislators. It's like lightning in a bottle. And the world is sort of different from that moment on. It happens all around the world every day.
Yes,
And
yes,
March 5th is our day. So yes, tell your
yes,
story.
yes, because
Thank
I
you,
share my
Marcella.
story because brain injury, Florida Brain Injury, Florida Department of Healthcare here in Florida, they provided when I was in coma for 29 days and 6 weeks recovering from a spinal cord injury and a 5-inch head scar, and Florida Department of
Marcello,
yes,
I'm going to cut you off
yes,
because this is sort of a good example of why we need to focus our
Yes.
messages.
okay,
So the all of the pieces of your accident and the scars, that we don't have time for that sort of thing in these meetings. When you are meeting with your legislators at home, you've got time to get into those stories.
Okay.
But in DC, we don't. And so I know you're not coming to DC, Marcello, and I'm very sorry about that. And I appreciate the reason why you're not coming, because of the chronic conditions the brain injury has left you with and left you unable to fly. So let's see if we can go ahead and break into our breakout groups. I want everybody to spend a minute or two quietly thinking about the things that resonate with you, the things that you know are needed for helping folks with brain injuries maximize their potential. So then what we're going to have you do is spend a little time talking as a group and seeing if you can't help somebody else figure out how to make a pitch. Maybe tell them we need a little less of that and a little more of this. Work as a group and figure out if there's something that you feel up to sharing at the end of the webinar, because we're going to come back and we're going to learn from each other. So if you can bring examples of how you've worked through some of these issues and crafted your message, then we might be able to learn from what you've been able to accomplish. So we're going to break into breakout rooms right now. Darcy, Kaz, I will all be in breakout rooms and we'll be able to answer some questions and perhaps clarify something if you need that clarified. So good luck, 1 or 2 points that resonate, and let's see what happens.
Thanks, Anne. Just give me one moment and you will receive a pop-up that says join breakout group, but it will be coming in about 45 seconds. Just give me a moment to make sure we have everyone in rooms. And as Anne noted, take 5 minutes at the beginning to sit with yourself and craft your stories, and then we will share. You all should have a pop-up now that says join breakout room. Go ahead and join that, and we'll see you in a bit.
I clicked by mistake when I saw it.
We gave folks 60 seconds to hop back into the main room. So just give us a few moments.
While we're waiting for everyone else to join, can I ask a quick question?
Please.
If I wanted to learn more about political advocacy, is there training certification that you would recommend?
That's a great question. Are you talking political as in politics or political as in policy?
As in advocating for your, I guess, with politicians for whatever your ask is.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot you my email. Can you send me an
Thank
email and I can answer you directly? Or you
Thank
can send me your email and I can respond to you.
Okay,
All right.
so
All right, Anne, back to you, ma'am.
Okay, had changed my glasses so I could see a little bit better. So how were your little groups? I hope you felt like they were personal and could help answer some of the specific questions that you had. And we had in my group a couple of folks who aren't going to DC, but we were able to talk about the ways that they can support what we're asking for and the cause from wherever they are. So, if someone would like to talk about how your group came up with a couple of points that resonated with you and what you learned about storytelling, that'd be great. You can raise your hand. I'm trying to check all my screens.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Yes, I would like to share my story. That Darcy was very helpful to shorten my story and talk more about Medicaid and Medicare, and
There you go.
leave my injury out, leave my airlifting to the airport, and leave the coma. Just talk about Medicaid and Medicare so they could fund Medicare, which is excellent. Thank you so much, Darcy. Thank you.
That was a perfect example of what we were trying to help you guys figure out for yourselves. And I'm glad that you found it helpful, Marcello. Kelly Lang, I see you've raised your hand.
Yes, I had a great group. We had most of us are going to be there for Awareness Day, so we talked about that, and we also a chronic condition seems to be the winner of the asks. Everyone is very empowered behind that, and we also had a gentleman who is very new to brain injury and was concerned that he's not doing enough by not coming. So we talked about how he can do so much for himself by staying at home and resting, and also by writing letters and calling the offices and following BIA. So I think my group did a great job.
That's great to hear. There's a place for everybody, whether you're going to be there or whether you have to stay home. There is a place for everybody in this movement. Anybody else want to share?
I would like to share in that area, especially about people who are not going to DC. This is Wisteria Ward, and Lauren was really helpful. And we want to start letter writing campaigns, and we do letter writing campaigns. And she was really helpful in how to take that pitch perfect and apply it to the letter so that it's not, because as a mom and a caregiver of someone who has a brain injury, hi Kaz, that's my daughter. The letter writing, the passion overrides, and I tend to not be like her who can just make a quick point and hit it and quit it. And so that was in this session was really helpful because I want to be able to galvanize other letter writers so that I can go to the legislature with that. Because I write letters profusely, but to write an effective letter, because they're just going to look at it and they go, all right, I don't have this kind of time. So I really appreciate the tips from Lauren and from Stephanie as well.
Well, that's wonderful. I hope that that you do follow through on that, Wisteria. It sounds like you probably will. Your daughter may hold you accountable. And that's great because some folks don't do well talking on their feet and they need time to gather their thoughts and put them down in a letter. As I was saying, there is room for everybody here in this movement. And we hope that what you've heard today inspires you to take a little action, whether that is coming to DC this year or getting on the mailing list for DC for next year, whether that's writing a letter to your local legislator or writing a letter to your legislator in DC. There is room for you in this movement. And so thank you very much for participating in the call today. We are grateful for everybody that joined us. Your stories are the ones that inspire us, and we live to fight another day.
Hello. Can I do my part about how I fundraise now as well, just off of what you said?
Sure.
All right. So, hi everyone. My name's Hunter. I am from Massachusetts, and I was asked to speak at this event about how I'm involved in the Brain Injury Association. And so I was actually just crowned Miss Blackstone Valley in the Miss America opportunity. And so what I have done is I have put such an emphasis on advocacy and awareness in the world of brain injuries. So on that note of why your story matters. Your story truly has power. There is power in the words that you say and how you say them. So for those that are going to DC, remember how you say things, right? It's not just about what you're saying, but how you deliver those words. Truly put that passion and that meaning behind them. I would also like to add that in terms of going to DC, and I know someone was concerned that they're not doing enough, I'm not going to DC myself, but I have found ways to give back. And one of my biggest things is raising funds for the Brain Injury Association of America. So each year I host my fundraiser called A Mile for the Mind, and it's completely virtual. It's asynchronous, so people can get involved when they want, where they want, just to really get that accessibility out there. And so I challenge all of you to think outside of the box when it comes to creating your fundraiser for the Brain Injury Association of America. So what do those steps look like? Step one, you can create a fundraising page directly on the BIA USA website. So if you go to biausa.org/March 25th, I believe it is. Yes, March 25th, it will bring you to the page to create your website. Next, from there, you're going to share your story, personalize your page, add in there why you're raising funds, because people don't fall in love with statistics. They fall in love with the person who is talking about their story, how they've been impacted, and why this matters. Yes, thank you for putting the link right there in the chat. Third, you're going to spread the word, right? Use social media if you're on there. Email it to people. Talk about it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. I know one of the things that I did was bring it up with my coworkers that I worked with, and so many were willing to donate because they care about me, and so they cared about the cause that I was raising funds for. Next, you're just going to watch your impact grow. You will be so surprised at how many people truly want to help you. And when you bring up the importance of brain injury, people are able to view it in a new light, right? People view it in a new way when you put a face behind what brain injury truly is. And it might be a face that they don't think of, right? They might see you surface level, and that invisible nature of brain injuries can be tricky because not everybody understands. However, if you get that voice out there, people will view it in a new way. This year, the Brain Injury Association of America is doing something so fun. They are doing an incentive for anybody that raises over $100 through their fundraiser. And you get this limited edition t-shirt, I Am a Voice for Brain Injury 2025. And this is if you raise over $100 through your fundraiser. So that is such an amazing initiative and incentive that they are giving to you for raising funds. They truly value your voice. I've done quite a bit of work with the Brain Injury Association of America through my fundraiser and different events that I've spoken at. So I hope that you all really, truly feel that you have power. You do. Your voice matters. Your story matters. So get out there, create your fundraiser. And if anybody needs any help doing that, there's great resources within the Brain Injury Association of America, or you can find me on social media as well and ask me any questions that you may have about starting it up. Thank you.
Thanks, Hunter. Appreciate that very much. All right. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us. There's info@biausa.org, and the question will get to the right person. Have a wonderful afternoon, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Thank you. Bye.